What's up guys, welcome back to another video, Eclipse Reviews, and I'm gonna start straight away. So the first track is uploaded by TDP, and I think that Illumination is maybe the track name, because it's like Illumination, Burning Mix. I'm not sure what does it mean, but in general, Illumination, there's already a project, so I'm guessing it is the track name. And Burning Mix, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so uploaded by TDP and Illumination, Burning Mix. Let's hear it out. All right. So the TDP is on a really good path, and there is something interesting. It as a whole track, it does show up the quality, certain or a talent or whatsoever. Even though I wouldn't say it's finished, or I wouldn't say it. I'm gonna spectate all of this like if I would consider all of the tracks that you are submitting as a track to play in my, let's say, DJ sets or whatsoever. So this is how I'm going to judge all of them, and this is how I'm going to criticize them from the reasons. I'm going to try to explain the reasons why I wouldn't play it on my tracks or why I would. So in general, the track is really nice. The first thing that I would work on this track is the flow. Now, I'm not sure, do you understand when I say flow, what does it mean? So there are certain things that are happening in a track. There's a groove, there's a melody, there whatever you're choosing to do. But how do you bring everything together? Someone will say this is an arrangement, while I wouldn't. Maybe even I could, but in general I like way more the term flow, because the flow actually creates like the whole track movement development, how it translates from one to another. It can be connected to, it could be described as arrangement, but I most likely would say it's more of a producing a track. And I've been talking about this lately in my videos, in the courses, like producing a track It's really important thing to understand. So once we sit in front of computer, we believe that we start producing a tracks, but most likely we started to deal with all the segments of producing a track. So we are creating the groove, we are start writing melodies, we are start using discovering the music theory by trying to connect the harmonies, scales, notes, tones, whatsoever. Sound design, we get lost in this. Mixing, mastering, blah blah blah. So once we start on this path of making music, we believe that we are producing, and many of us are explaining to our friends like, yeah, I produce some tracks, which not necessarily is correct. It all depends from the workflow you are of your workflow, but in general, producing a track, it can be way easier. So not necessarily you must do all these segments together. So you can always find interesting samples or find interesting sound banks, blah blah blah, and use that, and do not go too deep into the sound design. You can also hire someone to do mixing and mastering for you. You can even hire some musicians to do parts, but the producer, again, will be a central figure. The person or the central figure or the person who will be connecting all of this together into one story. So when I say flow, I mean about this. So how does the whole track looks, and how everything was brought like together with arrangement, together with the sound design and everything, like how the story is written, how everything is connected together. So when I say flow, this is what I'm going to refer to. First thing which I wrote here, like the I'm just gonna bring it on the beginning. So it does start with one sound only, like, which is okay, but I would definitely use few more layers. I would maybe use one texture, maybe one drone bassline. Like, it does not need to start straight away. It can be brought through the filter slowly, but something to connect this whatever this one note is just doing here. It's a decent modulation whatsoever, but I did expect, or there's a lot of space for other things to happen in the intro as well. Again, this is the first moment of the track. This is in the moment when what listeners will hear the first when they press play on Spotify, on YouTube, and whatsoever. So yeah, I would consider on putting a little bit more work on this intro. It can start with this one sound, but as it moves forward, I do expect something more to happen, especially this. Okay. This without many others, with more layers of support, it just, I don't know, this noise, it would be okay to be in a track if the background was done way better also. So maybe some drones, some pads, maybe even some chords, something that's gonna float, something that's gonna create, something that I will be interested in listening to. Like this, like just this one, and then and then it's just not enough for me to hook up. And this is when I say this, I refer mostly to the sound design, using many different layers, many different textures, different styles. Usually when I do the intros, I try to combine as many as possible, and then I'm choosing what combination of these sounds will sound the best and how they all fit together into one segment of a track. Second thing, like, I did expect that kick and bass will start here straight away, which again, like, once you open the low end in fully, then you already spent that moment, or you use that momentum of bringing the kick and bass low end to the track. And being on filter, on a high pass filter, I did not go to that level, but again, like, somehow it's like they come on the filter, there's a lot of low end going on, and then when they start, when the high cut filter is open all the way, I did not have this moment like the track started or the kick and bass. So this moment when the kick and bass start on filter in the intro, it's not a big deal. There's just kick and bass. Everything that happened in the intro before that just stopped suddenly. So it's like a completely different scene of a track. Only this noise sound, it's the only one that it was starting before that and the kick and bass started. So for me, it's kind of disconnected. I would work way more on the intro. And I will definitely start with a way lower filter, and also I would put a low cut on it, and then I would use it when the kick and bass are starting. So this is the reason also why most likely the TDP or the producer or the person who produced this track started when the kick and bass are starting. It already started dropping the hi-hats and many other sounds on top of it, which I also believe it's a mistake, as it will sound as a limitation. It will sound as a kind of copy pasting, but somehow I couldn't avoid, even though I was trying to do many things like this in the past, but when I played those tracks, it just didn't work. As I already said, we are producing music that is going to be played in a DJ mixes, in live sets, or they're going to be mixed with other music. So there are certain rules that we should follow if we wish to be present on the scene, or if we want that other DJs play our music, if you want that some DJs buy your tracks to the Beatport or stream them or whatsoever. So I would always consider starting a track with a kick and bass. They don't necessarily need to be dry all the time, but I would consider always to have them dry at least for 30 seconds, as that way the DJs will have at least 30 seconds to mix them with other tracks, and also not to be covered with many other sounds. So if we set a cue point on the first kick and bass, and if we cue it with another track, it's gonna be covered again. So after 30 seconds, once we start bringing that fader of a track, it will already have too many sounds and it will be harder to mix. So these drier parts, they can be really, really good for listeners. They will enjoy in dry groove, but also it will also help the DJs. So there are certain rules, I would say, that we should follow if we want to be effective on the scene. All right. Yeah, so groove part. So this is kind of when the track starts. Before all of this is an intro, and it already has, and the hi-hats and the kick and bass are already going up and down. I believe this is a way too much in the beginning. I would even consider putting at least for 30 seconds, like the flat rolling bassline, because then this changed transposed bassline will have more effect on the whole track, and then you won't need to put more sounds on this part, as just changing the bassline sometimes can be can be enough of a change for a track in that moment. And that way the whole flow will become better, because we all have our ideas, but in some moments we won't be able to express all our ideas in one track that is going to have a good flow. So sometimes, and most times in my music, even though I also put way more sequences and sounds than the track needs, and I'm working on that right now for myself, to just give enough as it needs, as somehow you will see that more you work, the more you will want to satisfy yourself, because some things will be so easy for you, while on the end, listeners, we can, if we try to satisfy ourselves as we are working on music through the time more and more, then it's going to be harder and harder to satisfy ourselves. But that moment when we satisfy ourselves can be a way too much information for average listeners, people who are not professionally dealing with music. So in general, making the music or the creating a track should be combination of experience and also the type of simplicity, because people love simple things, simple and effective and beautiful. Even though the simple can refer to something that's easily done, but you will see that it's not that easy. So if all of you try to make a track with the less sounds as possible and keep it interesting all the time, then you will realize how much work all these elements that you're going to put them, how much work they require, because it's not easy to put less sounds in a track and to keep it interesting all the time. So this is, I don't necessarily say that you should always have a simple tracks or drier tracks, but try to make one track that's not gonna use, that will use as less sounds as possible, but to be interesting, because from that practice you will learn a lot about many segments or the sequences in a track, and then you will understand how they can be effective and what are the key points that are gonna make these sequences to be effective as they can be. All right, groove part. I'm sorry, it's a bit too early. It's 9 in the morning. Filter down. Okay, 140. Somehow this high cut filter going down, it will have effect only if you, on the half of the filtered part, if you start doing the opposite and then bring the low cut as well, because it's just 1 minute and 40 seconds in a track, and I expect, and everybody is expecting for track to go up. And if you want to bring the track up, then low cut filter with the resonance, without resonance, it's up to you, will have this effect to push track up, not down, which I believe is really important thing. Once you start pulling the high cut filter on the kick and bass, I have expectation the track will go down, and it's a bit too early in the track for track to go down. Somehow I have a feeling this is the moment when the track is starting, where I can hear the groove, even though I would maybe keep only this noise down without this. So somehow I have a feeling the track is starting over here, and I would consider making this type of the development in the beginning without maybe the hi-hats, and but like drier parts, concentrate on the groove itself, because the groove will be what people are gonna get hooked up on. Definitely, this is a must thing to understand if you wish to make effective music. So without a groove, it's going to be so hard to keep listeners attached to your tracks and to enjoy in all the work. Okay, so now the vocal will come. Yeah, this 2020, now the track is starting way better. So this is a moment when I feel, there's a certain movement in the groove itself. There's not many sounds going on top, changing the bass line and whatsoever. So now this part is something that you should maybe concentrate and try to extract and to spread this, what you did in this part of a track, when it comes to the groove, in all the parts of the track. And this, it's a one layer, and it's kind of thin and a bit irritating, because it's I think bandpass filter or something that's sharp, but it's not big enough to carry the track. So I would put more work on this sequence as well. Vocal somehow does not belong to a track, not because of its, I mean on the sound design, how it's mixed. I believe I hear it in a center. Yeah, I'm sure it's mono, so I would spread it. Now, most vocals in many other music genres are mono, but in a Psytrance it just does not fill up the mix, because all that is centered, because of the hi-hats, everything is going around, and then you have something that positioned in a center. Somehow, to me, it does not sound good enough. If you spread it not way too much, so you create this effect, but if you spread the vocal so it has some stereo information, it will translate to the mix way better, and it will glue in all these other mid-frequency elements way better, so it's gonna translate a much better. And maybe if you spread it, you won't need to increase the volume, but now when it's mono, I want to bring it somehow closer to a listener. So the first thing is that it came to my mind, I would boost the volume, but it not necessarily means that it's not loud enough, because now I think it's more that if you just use mono to stereo plugin, that it will suit in the mix way better. yeah, this kick and bass on filter right here, they really don't have any purpose or here when it comes for arrangement or track flow, whatever you want to call it. So it's just like, it's a first moment of a track. There should be like intro. It means like bringing slowly to a certain level. Then I would concentrate on the groove and try to develop a track a little bit slower whatsoever. And then this vocal is really good, but it's not a main part of a track. Even though I believe you like it a lot, I do like it as well, but it's not that good, so it be the main part of a track. So you didn't reach to the point level. The same goes for the second half. But after this, I did expect like some happening to happen in a track, something that's gonna tell the story. Something, I mean, the vocal is good enough, but it's not good enough for the main thing of a track. Melody, riff, groove, rhythms, riffs, whatever it comes to your mind. Sound design, some beautiful or twisted sound design, whatever you choose to, whatever is your idea. But somehow it just like after the vocal, okay, yeah, and then just went down. So I did expect more, and I believe that this, the track must have that moment, definitely. And also nothing happened here, just like kick and bass. Like this second half, I believe you just wanted to extend the track and there was no certain idea. So if there's no idea, then work on the idea itself. Do not continue with arrangement just because you want to pass through that and then you want to continue or you want to finish a track. So work on the idea. Something in this part must happen if you want to have an effective track or interesting track or whatever the term should be, because now there's like a kick and bass on filter and then you brought it back. It's okay, but the groove itself is not good enough to carry the whole track. This is now the second thing. And there's no happening, there's nothing. Okay, the vocal is really nice, but these are all supportive elements, not the main ones, not the elements of that carry the idea, that carry the story or whatsoever. So, yeah. And then this break is a way too, like, down. It just went down without much things happening. So it's just like stopped. I do always say that like once you make a break, we should all go down. But I always say that in that moment when we go down energetically, we should have something that's gonna replace the groove itself and something that listeners can attach to. Can it be a pad or whatever, or certain speech or melody or chord progression, drone, textures, whatever comes to your mind, whatever you feel to put in a track. But I believe that intros and breaks are the most beautiful parts, because this is when we can go out of our rules and then we can do crazy things. We can put double speed break beat, like or whatever. I mean, this is where we can have a freedom. We can bring a different ideas from different music genres, like reggae or I don't know, rock and roll or whatever. So these are the moments when we have a freedom, and I do see that Psytrance producers are not putting enough work or do not have enough ideas to fill up these parts. So you can borrow the ideas from many different genres into the intros and breaks, and then the whole track will be sounding way more interesting. Okay, break is way too empty. Kick and bass and hi-hats. Okay, here, okay. So I didn't hear the kick and bass dry part in the whole track, and I do believe that, especially progressive Psytrance, it's most likely like the core or the base of the whole track are the kick and bass dry, and then you just add on top of it to keep it interesting and to create an interesting story and to expand it further. So if you are concentrating on the progressive track, then try to like use all of these elements that you put in a track. Try to mute all of them, put them on the beginning of the project, like muted, and try to play the track and try to like just listen to the groove, like in this moment one sound. Okay, let it go further, like now in this part it must have something else. Okay, and then just feel the track as it needs. So that way you're gonna listen to the flow of a track and not just randomly working on this, on that element. In my opinion, the best way for making the track is that you spend time in like doing something like this, even though I would put like main happening of a track. Is it going to be melody, whatever you want it to be, and then maybe, or in an empty project, or you can start a new project in the same folder where this project is, and then just try to write a track or to produce a track with the elements that you already created. So try to listen to it, like how does it translate, like do arrangement separately from all other segments, and then try to bring it in a better form. So listen how it develops. Okay, in this moment it needs something else. Okay, at this part I don't like, I will now replace this one whatsoever. So once you create a flow, then you can go into another like final shaping, and then you can maybe replace and do more interesting sound design just to enrich them. But I believe that when you start arrangement and the flow of a track, you should have enough elements so you can fill it up, but you shouldn't be distracted with sound design, with mixing, with mastering. So once you have this, dedicate your session to creating a flow or arrangement, this is the moment when you should do that only, because concentrating on listening to the whole track is a really important part of making music and interesting and effective music. Okay. Second part is also missing this main thing. I'm gonna put that as an end of a track. And then there's another break here. So there's these small breaks, I believe they're brought like, okay, I don't know what to do, let's put a break. So you shouldn't make these decisions like this. So try to not use this break, try to bring something else. So there are so many things that you can do in a track. There are so many ways, so many different or interesting sound designs, textures, pitches, whatever. So try all the possibilities and then try to analyze which solution is suiting the best. So just because you made this break here, it does not necessarily mean it must stay. So I wouldn't be scared of the deconstructing the whole track. You can keep this one as a one version, file or new or duplicate version, then try to write completely new arrangement. So this is how I approach all of my tracks. So I'm gonna try everything until I find the solution. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not, sometimes I will just spend the time in studio, but still, the more time I spend, the more I will learn about the track, the more I understand what works, what doesn't, what can I do better. The same goes for kick and bass. Like I make like tons of them, like even though like every time I make a really good bass line, I save it as a separate file, and then I create all this bank of my bass lines. So in a certain moment of a track, when I feel it doesn't work, like, oh, maybe the kick and bass can be better. So the sound design, maybe I can do a better groove. Maybe I will add a different bass line. Maybe I will change the MIDI. Maybe I will open the cutoff on the bass line to be more full. Maybe I'm gonna use the offbeat. Maybe this, maybe that. So I'm trying all the possibilities until I find that combination, not to say formula, but combination that works for that specific track. Because somehow each track has a different thing. Like if there's a groove that you did in one track, if you drop it to another one, it will happen that it's not gonna work. So not necessarily mean that if you make one groove that it's gonna work in every track. It's not true. So once you do the good combination, you will understand that it works. You will hear it, you will feel it, and that's going to be it. So just don't stop, just don't be afraid of making the changes, many different versions, and you will see once you find exactly the solution, you will feel it straight away, and it's going to feel great. So yeah, this would be the main advice. Second part, miss anything, again, break unexpected. So again, the track could stop way earlier, like this last part, there's a minute and a half, it's completely dry, there's nothing happening, and for the outro you can use 1 minute tops. And also like after this part, I will go straight away down and close it maybe on the 7 minute, and it can be 1 minute shorter, because again, we want to make an effective music, the music that will, if we used 8 minutes, then in all 8 minutes we want to have something to be said. If there are parts that are not necessarily a track, just cut it. It's better to do a shorter track, more effective, than longer track that can cause the effect of bringing something that is not that interesting. I don't want to say boring. Okay, so track must have groove, flow, melody, some power, riffs, whatever, like something to amplify the emotions of our listeners. So in this track, nothing main happened. The vocal is good enough. I would recognize this track by its vocal, but somehow after that, I did expect like to bring or the power, like the groove, like to be more energetic, or to have beautiful melody, or better atmosphere, or something like this. A trance pads, like da 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 da, whatever suits to your taste. It really doesn't matter. But in general, I believe that it should have a way more work. All right, so this was the review of TDP Illumination Burning Mix, and see you soon with another review. Bye.